Evan S. Porter. I want to make sure to get that in there. Welcome to the Tiny Network. I'm so glad you're
Hello.
here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're going to talk about your book today, Dad Camp. I'm so excited. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you for writing it.
Oh wow, it's so cool to hear that you got a lot out of it. Thank you. I had a blast writing it.
I want to hear, if I can, let's start with your life history in 5 minutes or less. But
Okay.
I'd like to hear how you got to writing the book because you write a blog called Dad Fixes Everything, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and tell me, well, let's start there. How did the blog start?
Well, I was born in 1987.
Yes.
Um,
Understood the assignment. I am here for it.
yeah, we're gonna take it way back. Yeah, so I started the blog in about I want to say 2018-ish. And it was a way to take my like writing skills. I've always like enjoyed writing and I'd like to think have a talent for it. And I was doing marketing writing and journalism and copywriting and all sorts of different things like that. And I wanted to put it to use for myself. Uh,
Hmm.
so the blog was a really good way for me to practice like my marketing skills, internet marketing, blog style writing. So I just kind of took topics that I was interested in and learning about as a new parent and was writing about them and very, very simply, especially like Google search related questions that I might have and like might be discovering the answers to and writing those down. And so um and then it was, grew and grew and it became like a big piece of my career for a long time. And then now here I am as an author writing I think something kind of adjacent in Dad Camp, but more fictional and a lot more fun.
What was the difference for you going from doing the blog kind of beat and to writing a full length book? How was that process? Did you enjoy it more? Was it daunting or how did you feel about that?
I think doing the blogging for so long and again like with my own blogs but also in a marketing agency and like writing for different like online outlets, I think I was just like really burnt out of that style of writing and I wanted something that was going to be fresh and fun, and just for me and different. And so that's how I kind of came across this idea of writing a novel. I had done like full length fiction before in the form of screenplays,
Oh,
um, in my early 20s and had so I kind of like cut my teeth on that and learned like plot structure and story structure and what a character arc is and like some of those like basic storytelling 101 things, and then applying them to a novel was a completely new and different challenge for me that I thought would be fun. And in some ways it was, in some ways it was very, very difficult. So
what was the most difficult part for you? Because I feel like in my mind, screenplays and novels go so well together because I kind of think in pictures. But I tell me what was hard about that.
I guess two things. The just the sheer word count of a novel is so much more than a screenplay. I think you could knock out like kind of a crappy first draft of a screenplay like way faster. I think the first draft of Dad Camp took about 6 months of pretty steady work, like almost every day. So
Hmm.
that was really kind of daunting. Like just 80,000 words, 90,000 words, whatever it might be. Like that's just a lot of words. So I didn't fully appreciate that, I think, until I was in the thick of it. And I was like, man, this is long. Um,
This is taking forever.
yeah, 6 months. I mean, that's a really long time to get to a draft that's not good.
A- Amen. I'm working on my first novel and it's questionable at best. But
Yeah.
yes, I agree. I mean, you don't think about, wow, 80,000 words. That is so much. And then one mistake within those 80,000 words can then create a waterfall of things that you have to change. I mean, just holding it all in your mind feels like,
Yeah, it's more material, more content in your brain. I think in a screenplay, if you want to define and change something, it's pretty easy to find it. There's only 100 pages roughly, versus trying to find a piece of information or a piece of a scene that's in a novel. I mean, it could, it's you really got to like wade through the whole thing, and you have to have so much in your brain.
totally.
There was that piece, and then the interiority piece of like tracking the character's emotions. Because in screenplays, it's all action and dialogue. It's only what you can see and hear, and so um, having to put all of that on the page and know when to and when not to, definitely like a big learning curve.
Oh my gosh. You're encouraging me to maybe try screenplays instead. Maybe I
Yeah,
should just abandon what I'm doing and change it.
right. There's definitely less words and less pages, and I think well, they're both hard in their own ways. It's like because you
Of
have to have
course.
the economy of words has to be so tight and so good in a screenplay, and like the dialogue has to be so sharp and all those sorts of things that it's just more. efficient. But both hard.
Yeah. I wouldn't be good at that. Shoot. I like to use 5 words when one would do. So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
that's not for me. Okay.
Maybe the
Well,
novel is the way to go for you.
totally. Wordy Julie. I love hearing about how people got to kind of where they are. Okay. Let's talk about Dad Camp. I want you to give me the elevator pitch if you don't mind, because I'm horrible at summaries per my last email about using too many words.
Yeah. So Dad Camp is a novel about John. He's our main character, and he's a loving dad, a devoted dad to his 11-year-old daughter Avery, who's always been like his best bud. They've always been like inseparable, like best friends, just like picture perfect dad-daughter relationship. Only now Avery is 11 and she's coming up on her like teen years and she's turning into a preteen and he's not cool anymore to her and she's rolling her eyes at him and doesn't want to spend time with him and he senses her pulling away and her last summer before she starts middle school he decides to take her to this dad daughter summer camp that's supposed to reignite their bond and make them closer than ever and the book is about it all going hilariously wrong and blowing up in his face.
I love that for him. I really like, well, first of all, I love that it's compared to The Guncle by some people, but I was realizing when I started reading it, there are so few books like this. We don't have a lot of books with, I feel like, male main characters in this kind of scenario, especially parenting. So I really appreciated that felt fresh to me. The other thing I love is that straddling between childhood and adulthood, we talk a lot about that. I think as parents, we talk about it for our kids, but it is such a straddling for us as well, because as they move through that transition, there is very much an element of suddenly we're back in the insecure middle schooler land for ourselves, right? Where you're like, so do you want to hang out with me or no? Okay, cool. Great.
Yeah.
Well, just let me know. And I find my husband and I find that all the time. Like we're waiting around to see if they get better plans. And then if they don't, they'll hang out with us. So just that discomfort. And I love the beginning of this book where his absorption in his child's life is so pure and lovely. And then suddenly, now what is he going to do?
Hmm.
And where did that seed come from for you? Was it based on your experience? Was it just something you saw coming? I don't know how old your kids are.
Well, it's funny because when I wrote the book, it was like the majority of the writing was 2021. So my
Okay.
my oldest daughter was 3 years younger then. So so much has changed. So she's 9 now. And we're kind of like we're like almost living the book now, like
Crazy.
much closer to that age. But I think that seed came from it was like I wrote a lot of the book during sort of COVID lockdown time.
Hmm.
Uh, and but unlike it wasn't like your typical COVID project, like, oh, I have nothing to do. I'm gonna write a book because I was just like parenting all day, every day, morning to night, like no friends, no hobbies, no getting out of the house, no exercise, like all that kind of stuff, no showers.
Great. What a good
Yeah,
recipe for mental health.
yeah, exactly. Right, just feeling that effect of having like nothing of like me other than just like being dad and getting snacks and changing diapers. Um, and so yeah, I kind of came up with this idea of a character who had fully devoted himself to being a dad and being a parent and then all of a sudden like kind of is left to pick up the pieces when he's not needed as much and be like, well, what else do I have? Like I have lost my friendships and I've like given up things that I loved before and I haven't invested in my relationship with my marriage as much and kind of like that juncture point, which I think is so critical.
Yeah. I know I mentioned this already, but just I love that you wrote that from a dad's perspective because I think we are starting to talk about it more for moms because it is such a, I think in I shouldn't even say most, in many situations, the mom is the primary parent, but when the dad is the primary parent, there are the same pitfalls. They just look a little bit different. So I really like that you had that, but with a tenderness that wasn't, well, dads have it bad too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like I wanted just like any parent really to just feel seen and understood by the book. Especially dads. I mean, I think it's hard to find good representation of dads in a lot of media. And yeah, like there's so much work to be done in terms of like the inequity in households and stuff like that. But I know like so many great dads who are just that's the primary thing they do. They work, but they're just so invested in their kids and they're there and they do all the stuff. They change the diapers, they make the lunches, they, like, and you don't see that. You just don't see it in a lot of media. And so yeah, I just wanted to like celebrate that, but also kind of discover some of the challenges of like toxic masculinity and some of the things that aren't so good about um dads and masculinity and fathers and all that kind of stuff. So
You did a really good job of weaving those together because it's true. I think even for like my husband isn't the primary parent necessarily. That's more my role. But even for him, there are so many pitfalls and challenges to the boys getting older that he didn't see. And we don't talk about that. We don't allow for as much conversation about that, the masculinity kind of model and all of these pieces. It's amazing how tangled it is. And yet there's still a simplicity that really runs through so much of it when it comes to parenting our children and the tenderness we feel for them and how we cope as they rudely, in my opinion, go to live their own lives.
it is rude. It is rude. And I think, yeah,
Extremely.
it's very short and very finite. And I think that's an idea that's explored in the book. Like I've mentioned in other places, but, my oldest daughter stopped believing in Santa Claus when she was like 6, which is, I was like, what? Like, it's like, you only get to be Santa 5 or 6 times or 7 times maybe. And like, you don't just get to do it forever. Like, it's very, that's heartbreaking, right? So my youngest is 3. So I'm like, okay, we got like 3 or 4 good Christmases before that magic part of it evaporates, And of course it'll still be fun. There's new things to look forward to, which I think is also part of the book. But that is a very finite, short amount of time that you understand why parents are desperate to hold on to it.
Absolutely. There is that attachment, and then trying to practice some sort of non-attachment feels ridiculous, but incredibly necessary. So
Yeah.
I don't know where we find ourselves.
Yeah.
So this book is your debut. What's been the best thing that you felt as it's come out, and what's been the strangest thing?
The best thing is the way it's connecting with people because it's not for everybody. It's like a little bit of a different book, and some people are not connecting with it the same way, which is totally okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen, like, I've had people reach out to me or seen reviews where people are like, I don't haven't talked to my dad much the last couple of years, but I called him up after I read this book. Or like, I had a guy reach out to me and say that he actually had lost his daughter a couple years back, and the book really meant a lot to him because he was kind of envisioning that it was like him and her, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get choked up thinking about it. But so it really has like hit home for a lot of people, and that makes so all the craziness, all the stress of being a debut author, like feel worth it.
Mm-hmm. That it is amazing to feel like what you wrote connected. I mean, that's because I think I'm imagining that after reading this book, there is so much heart to it. And so you put so much of yourself and that love into it. So to have someone metabolize that in the way that you hoped is so beautiful. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
and
glad that's happening.
it feels really nice. But then you get people who are like, I don't like John, like, and I'm like, all right, well,
Yes.
but it's fine
My
'cause
friends here are familiar with my journey with Goodreads reviews and reviews in
oh yeah,
general.
yeah,
And it is really shocking what people will put on the internet. Or maybe not so shocking, just shocking to you once you toil
yeah,
away and then people are like, meh, I didn't like whatever. And you're like, oh, perfect. Great. Thanks for
yeah.
letting me know.
I know, but it's like I make fun of it, but it's okay because if everybody thought it was okay, that would be bad. It's like a little bit of disagreement is a good thing, I think, and it means that it's really connecting with some people and it's not connecting with other people as much. So,
100%. Not every book is for every reader.
mm,
And reviews are not for us as authors. I mean, it really is like you kind of have to let it go. But it's tough because we always use the baby analogy and it's that same sort of attachment, right? Where you're like, please take care of my child that
yeah,
I've worked so hard on and love very deeply. And
yeah,
I've
I know.
labored over every stupid of these 80,000 words, for example.
Exactly, yeah. And I think it's like the book is a little bit of like a Rorschach test too. I think like and you don't have to be a parent to get a lot out of it, I don't think.
No.
But it does hit on a different level, I think, for people who are like right in the thick of having kids in that age range or like maybe even younger and kind of seeing what's coming up. So
Yes.
um I mean, that was the primary audience in my head when I was writing it, and so I think that, parents are feeling especially seen and connected to it. But I still think it's a book for anybody. I think that if you like if you loved your dad, or missed your dad, or you had a great relationship with him, like I think you'll enjoy it. So
I agree. I think there's so much here that has that sort of who are the people that mother and father us, who are the people that are connected to us and that are precious. So I think there's a lot here for all sorts of readers. I agree. But you're also right about the inkblot piece because especially I think like we're talking about, these are such tender things. It for some people is like you're pressing a tender spot for them. And so they maybe want to hear it or don't want to hear it, but yeah, it's a trippy ride. What's been the weirdest thing? Has it been that, or what has been strange for you about having it out in the world? Does it feel real?
yeah, I mean, there's all this. It's a very long process. I'm sure you know, and I've heard from other people. It's like you write the book, you get the book deal, and then it doesn't come out for 2 years or so, and you're editing it and you're working on it. There's long stretches of time where like nothing on your end is happening, like the marketing team is doing their thing and all that. And then there's all this build up for like multiple years, and then it's just sort of out. And it's like the out part is like a little bit anticlimactic. There's no big like nobody shows up at your house with like balloons or really. And I had like
A big check.
Yeah, like
Publishers Clearinghouse.
like you did it, like here's $1 million, like that'd be nice. But like I had a big party with family and friends, and I had my first book event in a bookstore, which was really, really cool. But kind of on the day, it just shows up in bookstores, and then it's kind of the same because people start reading it and leaving early reviews way before, so you kind of forget that a lot of people haven't been exposed to it yet. I think one of the weirdest things has been all of my friends and family who hadn't read it yet, which is most of them, like all getting it at the same time and starting to read it. And I'm like, oh God, this is stressful. I can't handle this. And like, that was a weird experience.
It is strange when people that you know are reading what you wrote. I think it's much easier for strangers to read it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You're so right. Because I was telling somebody, books kind of trickle out. And I never thought of that. Like it appears in bookstores, but some bookstores put it out a little early and all these sorts of things. And you're like, okay, well, I guess I'll just be here. And are you working on another project?
I am.
Okay. Do you want to tell me about it?
I can't say too much about it yet.
Fine. I'll allow it.
Under lock and key, but yeah, I'm really excited about what I'm working on. It's been hard to find the time while like promoting this one, but I'm chipping away. So,
what do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure interviews like this are just cluttering your calendar and keeping you from doing all the things. Plus, as we discussed, it's summer.
It's summer, so there is no childcare, there is no time, there is no nothing. So
no, and your children's every whim is your responsibility. I feel like I know you're closer East Coast than I am, but I feel like all my East Coast friends send their kids to camp, and I need to get in on that because, well, I kind of missed the boat. It's too late now, but I feel like camp is where it's at.
You got to start early. Well, yeah, it is. Our oldest doesn't really like camp. She does a lot of sports, so she's on the swim team.
Okay.
She's on the soccer team, like was like very true to the book.
Yes.
So our summer's been pretty busy with like practices and stuff, and she just didn't want to do anything else. So during the day, it's a lot of like, all right, just don't wear yourself out because you got soccer practice. So like, here's the television.
Dude, soccer's a part-time job. These are the things. These are the things. I said something to my friends the other day, and I was talking about organizing my iCloud photos, and I'm in this like backup boot camp class because it's such a cluster we have thousands of photos. It's so bad. And so it's super stressful, and I've been letting them back up for days. And I was telling my friends this just like I am now. And in the middle of my sentence, I was like, this is the worst conversation I've ever had. Like, what am I doing? Why am I talking about this?
Yeah.
So these are the joys of midlife, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you get groups of parents together, like the conversation is real depressing. It's like we just talk about bowel movements and,
It's so true.
more than anybody should.
It's so true. Oh my gosh. And now I'm into midlife, so my eyes are going, which is another topic I'm bringing up to everyone. I'm like, can you see? Because I feel like I can't. I'm doing a lot of this.
Yeah.
These are the joys. So I'm a big fan of Mr. Rogers, and he talks about people who love us into being. Who loved you into being as an author?
Great question. Also a big Mr. Rogers fan. But I would have to say my dad. I think you see him a lot in the acknowledgments and in the dedication, and I got my love of writing from him, and just a lot of who I am as a person. But yeah, I don't think that this book or my career as a writer and author would exist without him. So I think it's been a really cool thing to like have the character named after him and have the dedication be to him and like then have that actually exist in the world in a bookstore. Like that's been really special
I love that. A piece of him lives in this.
for sure.
Well, congratulations on the book. I'm so glad I got to talk with you today. I think people are going to love this book, and I know they already are loving it, but I think my people will really love this book because they love talking about parenting things and all the stuff. So, Dad Camp, here you are. And many congratulations. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
I'm glad. Good. Thanks for coming.